Good morning. My name is Brandon Gonzalez, and this is my video response to Fresa Eat Chocolate. To start off, the theories that we discussed in class was popular culture by Stuart Hall, which is basically what he tells us is a testament of experiences through generations of beliefs and traditions and shared experiences. Therefore, every country around the world has their own. Gramsci also comes into this and telling us that, there's this homogeny that education and religion, media, they all shape people's values and norms by different perceptions, and they try to force things down to make it seem to basically reinforce power imbalances. And the problem with this is that it perpetuates stereotypes. Anderson's argument is that nations are constructed like they're their own entities, of course, but people come together and none of them will eventually all meet each other, but they rally behind an idea. They rally behind a constitution, a piece of paper. The problem is that people, although they have a shared sense of identity, people fall behind. People who may not be a part of it, who don't want a part of it, they fall behind in this argument. Foucault's analysis of power and knowledge, he tells us that it's embedded in everything we do. It's embedded in our popular culture. And Butler argues a difference between gender and assigned sex. She goes on and tells us that there's a big difference between the two and they can't be merged together because they're separate. Who I identify with, it definitely is both Diego and David. I think they both come to the table presenting their own ideas and thoughts, and they have their own reasons to feel that way. I mean, the movie is obviously about, in the beginning, we see Diego come and try to flirt with David. David doesn't want that, but David kind of becomes a watchdog because David is a young university student who is really following in line with his government's ideas and is paying attention to this revolution. And Diego is a little bit older and he has his own ideas. He's Catholic, but we can tell that he's a part of the LGBTQ community. He's Catholic and he's an artist, but at the same time he falls with ideas that we would think wouldn't align to him, but they end up doing. Um, the pros and cons to having them represent popular culture and an imagined community. Well, for David, it's obviously character development and outspokenness. I mean, you see that throughout the movie, David at first is very standoff from Diego because he knows that he's gay. He knows that that doesn't fall in line with what he believes the government should. And eventually he tries to push it away or think that it's not something that he should pay attention to. But over the time, over dialogue, over having discussions with Diego, David realizes that he's no different than he is, that they both want change, they're both understanding, that they both are human beings who at the end of the day just maybe feel different ways about different things. David has a sense of curiosity and change, which is what I think I identify with the most. He's asking questions constantly. He's challenging the status quo at the time. He wants to speak out against the state, but he doesn't walk blindly on the road of just believing everything it says because he has character development throughout the movie. And he kind of pushes this notion that, identity, especially national identity, evolves. Um, his ideas go against pushing someone like Diego down. He doesn't believe that anything is gained from pushing down Diego or any of his beliefs, and so he understands that it takes getting to know someone to maybe fully understand him. He's inclusive, and eventually by the end of the film, you kind of see that he believes that freedom plays a bigger role than just national unity. The cons is that this is kind of an unrealistic idea. I think it's hard for you to have one experience that changes your life so much that you're willing to then die on that hill. I think it's only told from one perspective, and it took a long time for David to begin to feel like this about Diego. But I think the underlying message is that popular culture will always mirror the problems within a society. And unless we pay attention to that, then we will become blinded by whatever, government or the media is portraying or pushing onto us that trumps our own ideas and thoughts. As for Diego, it's really great that Diego, excuse me, it's great that Diego, one of his pros is that he advocates for individuality. Diego doesn't shy away from who he is or what he believes in. And, people know that he's an openly gay man, but he's not going to shy away from that idea. and he's going to keep chasing his dreams and doing what he wants to do. So he has this kind of freedom of identity, and he is a representation of the minority. I mean, he knows that he is going to constantly get ostracized, that he's constantly going to be put down, but he's not going to let that stop him, and he's going to continue to do what he wants. The only cons is that the character eventually became so alienated, and he becomes a source of stereotypes inside of the film. However, the reason why I identify with him is because of this freedom of identity. He's not going to let the government stop him from doing what he wants to do, although it may cost him a lot, potentially his life. He's going to continue to chase that and to chase whatever he wants. Why do I think that, or what role does the character Diego play in a social society such as Cuba? He emphasizes the importance of resistance. And on top of that, both of them, Diego and David, they both emphasize the importance of dialogue, of understanding one another and sharing ideas so that eventually they can both be strengthened in not only their understanding, but in what, the government is trying to do. They both have their own ideas of what the government is trying to do, but uh, this power and knowledge that is spoken about by um, this power and knowledge is spoken about by Foucault. It really plays a huge role in the development of the film, the development of the relationship, and on top of that, I think that um, Butler's whole idea between the difference in sex and gender, I think that played a critical role in the film because it told you that, Diego may have acted one way or done such certain things, but he wasn't gonna let the stereotypes of, what's female or what's feminine versus what's male and what's masculine stop him from being his true self. And I also think that became something that he really wanted to. I think we saw that, especially when that one character came into the film and he was telling her to have sex with David because, David hadn't been with anyone yet. He kind of pushes boundaries. He's pushing boundaries. He's going against what's the normal, and he's trying to ensure his friendship with David, but at the same time show David who he is for all he is. It shows how the importance of freedom and how imperfection, according to the state, like LGBTQ, is not only necessary but positive to building a better society. And I think popular culture is only achieved when it's not just hearing the masses, but hearing the few who may be, subject to lots of hate or stereotypes. You need those people in order to emphasize popular culture. And although in a socialist society of Cuba at the time, it was dangerous, Diego was necessary. I think, some dangerous ideas, some dangerous beliefs, you need them in order to better your society. And on top of that, Diego is in and of himself a sense of diversity to all people, and he is bringing diversity to the table in Cuba at the time, in a socialist society like Cuba, and he's showing that there are people like him and people like who wish to, they wish to be treated like everyone else, but they just can't be at this time because history isn't ready for them to be. But is it better for him to just take a step back and walk away from it and to put his head down and just understand that society isn't ready for him? Or is it better for him to run through a wall and to push against the barriers that are preventing him from getting to where he wants to be? And so, I think that's the main takeaways that I got from the film. I thought that it was a very, very, very well written and well executed film. And I think that if you were watching the film, you really got to have a connection with both characters and how, although that they were unable to fully understand each other at first or were judgmental of each other at first, that friendships blossom, society blossoms, and it only blossoms through dialogue and understanding. And that is how popular culture is developed. That is how popular culture is heightened. And so that was my takeaway from the film. And thank you.